So I've compared StarCraft and StarCraft 2 to traditional sports. And I think this is kind of a fun thing to do sometimes, guys, when we talk about different video games, we can compare it to some traditional sports, right? And I've said this, I've been on record saying this, that Call of Duty is making an aggressive approach to be the next traditional sport, right? Where, the CDL is going to be compared, or put in the same conversation as the MLB, as the NFL, as the NHL. It's going to be kind of within those other sports because they're trying to structure it in a way where it's very similar. You have franchise teams and, you have a regular season, playoffs, championship. And I think that that's a really good direction for them to go with the Call of Duty League. And so I compare Call of Duty to some of the bigger, sports out there. I would say that, like CSGO and League of Legends especially, and even Dota 2, you look at those and those are kind of like the NFL or the NBA of esports. And then you look at like the NHL and the MLB, that might be, more so Call of Duty, but who knows, it might be, changing over time. But what is StarCraft 2 when we talk about traditional sports? And I always say that StarCraft 2 can be best compared to tennis. And here's why. StarCraft 2, guys, I believe, is the most difficult and challenging esport in the entire world. It is the most difficult because it's all up to you as a player to motivate yourself, to, keep your composure if you're down a game or whatever the case might be against your opponent and you're in a big tournament on the pro circuit. It's all up to you. It's a 1v1 esport. Okay, now will that change at some point? Will it become a 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 5v5? We don't know what the future holds and what a StarCraft 3 might end up doing with that. But at this very moment, StarCraft 2 is a 1v1 game, right, when it comes to the esports scene. And tennis, we all know, is 1v1, right? They have like tournaments where there's 2v2s and such, and at the whether it's the Olympics or if they have it at just different tournaments throughout the course of the year. But overall, it's a 1v1 game. It is the most enduring. You have to have accuracy. Your endurance has to be your endurance has to be incredible. And those games can go so long. I mean, we're talking 3-4 hours, even longer than that sometimes. In some cases, at the biggest tournaments of the year in tennis, you see those guys just going at it, right? And it's a game in which that takes that endurance, that precision, the accuracy, endurance. I look at StarCraft and you can say a lot of those same things about it. Obviously, it's not active as far as, like moving from side to side, but everything has to be perfect when you're playing StarCraft 2. Your macro, your micro, your response time to things, and just your clicks per minute, all of that has to be at such a high level that it's unlike anything else in all of esports. And I believe that many of the StarCraft 2 pros could go on to play other esports and be extremely successful at them. I think the same of tennis players. I believe that tennis players, they are so good at what they do that I believe that they would be just as good at playing other sports as well. Maybe not like, the footballs of the world or, things of that nature, but soccer, you could see them being, playing soccer. You could see them, just there's tons of other sports out there that I believe actual professional tennis players could actually play because their bodies are in just such good shape physically and mentally. Their mind has to be so engaged in those things. So StarCraft 2, in my opinion, guys, is the tennis of esports. And it is the most enduring. The most pressure is on you as an individual and your response time and everything in those lines has to be perfect. When you're controlling multiple armies, I mean, it is chess in a digital video game, right? And it's all about how you react to what your opponent is doing. and doing it in a matter of milliseconds, right? So that being said, StarCraft 2, where could it go moving forward? Because we've seen what it is now as a, the tennis of esports, one of those extremely difficult games to play and to really master. And I don't think there's any debate about that. And it's probably why StarCraft 2 hasn't been as popular as a lot of other games, because it's just so demanding. It's so difficult to master this game. But a StarCraft 3, could it kind of change into team-based? And could that become reach new levels and new heights? I think it actually could, being one of the most difficult team esports out there in the world. It's hard to say, guys. It really is. This is a game that is very demanding as far as on a mental standpoint. And, physically, just being able to move your fingers. I know it's just your fingers and your thumbs, right? But moving those things, moving your fingers so quickly to obviously with the hotkeys and the commands and such in StarCraft 2, it is quite remarkable what these players are able to do. And I compare it to tennis, guys. But what do you guys think about it? I mean, when you look at traditional sports and esports, do you compare esports to some traditional sports or vice versa? What do you guys think about that? I do it a lot. I love talking about this stuff, and I love, kind of comparing esports to traditional sports, because I think that the two worlds are kind of coming closer and closer together every single year in one way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily, the exact same, obviously, and it will never be the exact same, but I think that there's obviously a world in which they coexist and that, they're accepted amongst everybody. But let me know what you guys think about that. Is StarCraft 2 the tennis of esports, and what other games do you guys play? Then what would you compare those to as far as the esports realm and traditional sports realm is concerned?